Hello everyone, welcome to Social Club. It's time to ask the club. As ever, we get your questions via the medium of the Ball Street Twitter account, at Ball Street, if you remotely asked. And we answer them. We're here. We've all decided to change up what we were wearing. Because it's a different day.
Yes, I didn't because I thought we had to
Continuity.
Yeah, I thought that it was all filming. I thought that I didn't think
professional. That is.
I stood in. Yeah, is it?
So you actually wearing what you were wearing yesterday?
Yeah. Well, I've got about 8 of these white shirts.
It's still the same one.
No,
it's an irrelevant point. I do have multiple ones. I've not chosen to wear one of them, but just in case, it was a potential that you could have worn.
It was a fucking because I had to iron it as well. I mean, it doesn't look like it, but it was worse. But yeah.
I love you, Fab. Anyway, let's get stuck straight into it. First question this week comes via NUFC_J17. Which irrelevant Prem clubs would you swap for more relevant Championship clubs? Fuck off. That is a ridiculous question. I'm not sure.
Sunderland.
Okay, because let's get straight in there. Okay, I was going to try and softly back out of this one, but no, Pajak's got in full steam ahead. You want rid of Sunderland?
I thought you'd hate that question because, like, I remember one of the first times I spoke to you, it was saying, "What do you hate about football?" And you were like, the word deluded, and I think the word relevant is in that same.
Well, maybe Sunderland are deluded that they should be a Premier League club.
What?
I don't know.
If you survive, then you're relevant.
No, the thing of it is relevance in terms of the Premier League.
No, hang on a second. Logically, then, if you don't survive, you're not relevant.
Not to the Premier League. You're not. QPR aren't relevant to the Premier League. They're relevant to football.
It doesn't say whether they're
massively so.
Or it just says irrelevant and.
So can we agree on maybe a couple of irrelevant Premier League clubs?
Hull.
Paul.
No.
Watford. Hull, as I said already.
Hang on. What is the question?
Which irrelevant Premier League club? This is just horrendous. Would you swap for more relevant? This is the most elitist bullshit. This is one of those things that's going to come back to us when Liverpool get relegated one day.
What's his Twitter name again?
This is NUFC_J17.
Newcastle.
Anything in that?
Right.
Jay,
well, to be fair, everyone is happy when Newcastle goes down. Nobody wants Newcastle back in the Premier League.
I really like Newcastle.
I don't want them in the Championship.
I want Newcastle.
It's a waste of a spot. They always win the league next year.
I think Newcastle should be. Newcastle are a proper Premier League team.
Stoke.
No, but there is no more. Well, there's a question.
Stop answering the question.
Just getting into it. This is just windmilling in here. Newcastle are the most Premier League team because them and Blackburn were the two teams that at the pub trivia question who were promoted from Division 2 to the Premier League because when the Brandon switched, they were promoted straight into the Premier League and they were part of the core of the 90s.
Yeah.
Nothing is more that sums up the Premier League quite like Newcastle because of that period where they had all that Spreer and Ginola and Shearer and Ferdinand and all that. So I would count Jay.
Yeah,
which is why I know what you're angling for.
Do you know what? I've not asked if none of the North East clubs are in the Premier League.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just
I wouldn't mind.
Go up to Scotland. Just join with them or something. I'm like I'm just not bothered about them. It's a terrible drive.
I want old school Darlington back. I'll
tell you who should be back.
Preston North End.
Nottingham Forest.
Nottingham Forest, yeah.
Champions, European Cup, real European Cup.
Anyone else?
Nottingham Forest are a massive football club and should be back in the Premier League.
Villa?
No, they were.
Villa are a big side.
If you want Nottingham Forest back, how can you not have fucking Aston Villa?
Yeah, you'd say that.
I've said that.
Huddersfield won the league 3 times on the bounce. Perhaps they should be back.
You spent too much time with Wilson, you mate. Who gives a shit about Huddersfield?
I do now. I look out for them.
Didn't he?
Preston North End. Big club one.
Massive club?
Yeah. Even Rotherham.
No. Rotherham are the most irrelevant football club, I think, in the clubs.
Burnley can go as well.
Yeah,
Bardi TFC. Know you want me?
Yeah, Brighton Club.
Excellent. If people don't know that, it's not just a description of his personality. It's the podcast that Flav does. Yeah, no, he's a farting cock. Which neutral ground would you prefer the FA Cup semi to take place in? I'm a big believer in this. There's nothing that winds me up more about English footy in the FA, quite like shoehorning every possible opportunity into Wembley Stadium. It's amazing. I love Wembley, but it's devalued. It's devalued the the final when you go there 2 weeks earlier for the semi-final.
So what else has devalued the final? Spurs being able to play every home game there next year. That's madness. I mean, you talk about semi-finals. We're having our entire league campaign there, and then Chelsea are going to do it for 3 years after. That magic of Wembley's fucked. Completely fucked, and Spurs are a big part of it.
I love that.
I apologise to everybody for that.
I love the period when Wembley was being built, and for a start, because Liverpool had a great track record of success at the Millennium Stadium in cup finals. I went to a couple in 2001. We won the treble, but the cup treble. But yeah, I've only ever seen one England. I've seen 2 England games in the flesh, and the first one was they played at Anfield when they were touring around the country. We played Paraguay. And I feel it was, I'm not a massive England fan, but we went along. It was a good day. I got to see England players, got to see some different players. Blah blah blah. I would never go down to London on a Wednesday night to see England versus Lithuania. Or England. I would never see England versus Paraguay in a million years if it wasn't on me doorstep. But I digress slightly. Old Trafford, I think, is the obvious one.
Old Trafford, Villa
Park, isn't it? But they have better stadiums than Villa Park now.
So
that's the tradition.
Maybe the Etihad. It'd be nice to see that place full.
No.
but then, yeah. But I think we're pretty all set on Old Trafford would have to be one.
Yeah. What was it? Yeah,
Emirates could be an interesting one if it's a London-based team.
We've done all right at the Emirates. I'll take that.
The thing is, Aston Villa Park is not. It's not been improved. When we were kids, they were always played historically at Villa Park, weren't they?
Highbury used to host games as well.
Well, the semi-finals.
Yeah, Spurs played against Wolves at Highbury in '81, and we smashed the bits out of it.
Take some trophies home.
Like bricks and glass and
that. Any other outside shouts? I don't really think there's... Maybe St James's Park?
St James's Park was the one that I was just about to say. It's a good stadium.
52,000, isn't it?
I think it's
hard to get to, though. That's the problem.
As we discovered when we went the day of the flooding in the north.
Well, you think? I mean, we'll get the advent of the Premier League and everything they've done to the club, and then you move. Football, and you move that aside. One of the results of it are these huge, very modern stadiums that are springing up. Chelsea are going to have one in 4 years. Spurs are going to have one in 2. Liverpool extending their stadium. Old Trafford is monolithic already. Arsenal have a new stadium, so there's tons.
Do you know what would
primed for a World Cup or a
absolutely
or a European?
Do you know
Championship?
what would be wicked if they could get it over the line like an Ibrox or a Celtic Park? That could be amazing because that's a real true day out in a ground that you don't normally get to go and play in, and that could really add a little bit of value to the semi-finals.
Another country though.
It is another different.
Yeah,
but then again, we played the FA Cup final in Wales, didn't we? So.
Yeah, but they don't have real. I mean, it's not real. I mean,
be careful. Next question comes from Mikhail Arumuga. Wow, I'm so sorry, mate.
Spell it, Paul.
Hey, I'm even struggling with that. Mikhail, hi, thanks for your question. Player with the most disappointing career in comparison to their media hype. Mario Balotelli.
Yeah, you've won that one.
I like him.
He's fucking shit, Flav. He is shit. No, he is shit.
Carragher's adamant that he's so bad as well, isn't he?
He is terrible. He is genuinely the fucking worst.
Was it Michael Johnson at Man City?
Yeah.
Ooh, yeah, but he was terrific when he was coming through the ranks.
He didn't have much interest in the game. I think.
Interest in pies, booze, and birds.
Yeah, I mean, there's a shame. There's two things. There's one when people don't reach their potential, they're rated, and for whatever reason they just literally actually don't have the skill or mental aptitude to apply what they learn and work in the modern game. And then there's one, and then the kind of sadder thing is when they can't control that personal aspect to it, like Michael Johnson. David Bentley, for me, if I got to interview anyone in football, I'd love to interview David Bentley because I've never seen someone who'd made it.
I thought it was Chris Armstrong.
I'd love to talk to him as well, actually. Yeah, one of the two. But for the purpose of this part of the show, David Bentley, because he had everything you needed. He could ping the ball in a similar fashion to Beckham, not as good, and he had something about him, but he just wasn't in love with the game. He wanted to express himself. He wanted to play in a certain way, but he was sick of being essentially been told you've got to make the byline or you've got to cut in 70% of the time, and we're monitoring everything you do, and he fell out of love with it. Which is part of the reason why he went out to Russia, because he thought it'd be different out there where he'd just be allowed to play football. And in the end, he retired at 28 and went out and became a nightclub owner. I'd just be fascinated to find out what the psyche was behind that, because he was there, he was playing in the Premier League, he'd signed for Tottenham, an exciting time for us. And While he didn't fulfil his potential, he did enough to suggest that he shouldn't be included in this. But I just think he's a fascinating case.
There's probably an example of Zlatan is not the example for this, but there's probably examples of players who, with the journeymen, who always Balotelli has got that where they've got people think, oh, he's a tremendous player. Oh, this club will get the best out of him, and is like Varane being an example. Like, people kept
Thomas Brolin.
Thomas Brolin was another one. He was he was obviously had an amazing Euros, didn't he? Yeah, and everyone was like, wow, look at this guy, and then he just got fat and lazy, didn't he?
He was good at Parma as well. QPR, there's two examples. One we've got right now, Ravel Morrison, who's I was just thinking there as you were chatting that some players you don't get it's not 3 strikes and you're out. They kind of get about 8 chances, and like Ravel Morrison's on about 6 at the moment, and he's just getting his fitness back. He was at Lazio. He's played twice. I think his fitness isn't there yet, but there's no doubt we saw him. He was on loan with us before.
Well, he was great in the spell,
and he was great, and you can see it. You can see the quality that he had with a couple of goals that he scored. The other one is he's gone beyond he's probably on chance 17 now. But is still the most talented player I've seen. Is a Delta Rap, who he was at Spurs at 17, and there's that YouTube video of him on his debut where he took the piss. I can't even remember who it was against, West Ham, and that was a 17-year-old Delta Rap who looked young and fit and like ready to go. And with us, the season when he scored 20, assisted 20, he was ridiculous. Ridiculous.
I'm going to plug the Long Ball Street podcast because we did one with Danny Gabardon, and he talks about Neil Warnock and how he managed Delta Rapt in that season. It's fascinating. Just go. I don't want to ruin it. Go back and listen to it. Yeah, it's a really, really interesting segment of the pod.
But he's a player who when he was playing for us, he was saying his agent was going, Real Madrid want me, Barcelona want me, and you're going, fuck off, Tarap. Like, what are you on about? And then he goes to AC Milan on loan. So you're like, oh, okay. And played well for them. Did well for them there. So in terms of talent, he had it. He's now at, I want to say Genoa or something like that. But went to Benfica for 2 years, didn't play a game because he just has the worst attitude.
Paul, who was the guy who played with Gerrard in the Liverpool youth teams that went on to Tranmere for years?
Neil Mellor?
No.
Parkinson?
No. I can't remember his name. Stephen Gerrard talks about it was the
Jason Koumas.
Jason Koumas.
Yeah.
And he talks about Stephen Gerrard talks about Jason Koumas as the most talented player that he's ever played with at any level of the game. Yeah. And this is a guy that throughout their youth career, Koumas was always the better player. And like Stephen Gerrard was still always thought of as going to be a top player. And Jason Koumas, for whatever reason, didn't make it and ended up spending 90% of his time in the lower leagues and stuff. And there's a true guy who should have been better than Stephen Gerrard that no one really knows about.
Lee Trundle?
Well, I don't think it was ever any media hype.
He's done the pen, and he knows.
How about and then Freddie Adu? Obviously,
Freddie Adu
is the obvious
is
one.
A great one.
Do you know what? As one that's played his trade in the Premier League for years and years, and a player that I think was maybe a tad overrated, John Obi Mikel. Because although he did it at the top end of Chelsea, the hype around John Obi Mikel and what type of a midfield he was going to be was never what we saw at Chelsea, and there was always a place for him in that side.
You know what it is actually with the Chelsea? Gael Kakuta got Chelsea a fucking transfer ban because of all of the way that was handled, because they were so desperate to get this wonder kid in, and then absolutely
it's always a massive risk, always.
You know, the one last one, just out of the Premier League, Hidetoshi Nakata, he played a lot in Italy. He was basically Japanese football's poster boy, and I think he had all the deals with like Winning 11, which is the Pro Evo at the time, and all that kind of stuff. And he was everywhere. Everyone wanted him because it was like he was the Japanese Beckham. You would get the shirt sales, the follow, but I think he ended up at Bolton. And he was terrible.
I thought he was really good in that Roma side. And there was a couple of years.
He was good on Champ.
He was great on Champ. He was so good on Champ.
Years where he was top draw, like he was. Yeah. But never really fulfilled it because he had so much hype around him that he could never fulfill that.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Sam Lovett Brown. I've no understanding this, so I'll ask you this one. Why the lack of press on racist abuse level at Son versus Millwall?
Well, if people don't know, Spurs played Millwall at the weekend in the FA Cup. Son was subjected to some very dubious chanting from Millwall fans around the sale of DVDs. So in London, you get people from a certain area of the world who come into the pub and they sell knockoff DVDs essentially. And apparently anybody who is from an Oriental background is now one of those DVD sellers, and that was the deal around it. And I think the question is about why the press didn't cover it, or they did, but it's kind of a shame when the more newsworthy story of the two is Harry Kane getting injured. And if you look on the back page of every newspaper, it was Kane getting injured, and I mean, that probably is more interesting to the majority of the public, and that's the reason why.
Your average Sun and Star readership probably don't want to hear about a bunch of good old white boys insulting the.
They probably do, unfortunately.
Do you think the press is slightly scared to talk about that as well?
I don't think so.
So why? What, you just think the Kane story is one that people are more interested in?
It's more newsworthy. That's what people pick up and read. They're not.
Do you think so?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, actually.
They don't care. There isn't. The press isn't a barometer for ethics. They're not there to be a moral compass. They don't care about any of that. Their role.
Often their headlines reflect that.
That may be the case, but the headlines will only ever reflect what is going to be the biggest selling story. That. Whether it happens to be ethical or not is not within their moral.
Do you think it's more of a front page headline than a back page?
I mean, West Ham and Chelsea got a lot of. I mean, we'll pick up any newspaper yesterday.
No, I agree. But I wonder if you think, in terms of that clickbaity top line of something like if someone's a racist or Millwall fans or whatever, that is more sensational than Kane is injured.
Are people more jaded?
But I think they're scared more.
If it was another club, you know, whereas it's like it's almost Millwall have become this thing of like, it's Millwall. What do you expect? I don't know. You know
I think you'd read that though. I do think you'd read it.
If it would be, they would have put it on the back. I guarantee it. They don't care. They don't care.
I think they'd be they're nervous to report that.
So you think it's more brushing under the carpet, or?
I think it's like. I wonder if they just don't want to go. They're scared to talk about it.
I don't know. We've covered West Ham and Chelsea fans making hissing noises at White Hart Lane and Chelsea fans doing seat calls and stuff like that before.
Here's the thing. I don't know where I fall on it, but when it's racism in other countries, I have seen it in newspapers. You know, when it's picked up in Champions League ties and stuff like that, it is newsworthy. And maybe it's not the back page of the news, but it is. It would
have been newsworthy without Kane's injury.
That's
my opinion. That's what I think.
If you've got those two videos, which one do you think would have done better?
Online.
If I was
online, yeah.
If I was appealing to mass football fans, and I think Liverpool fans are interested in the Harry Kane news, Manchester United fans, Tottenham, everyone's interested in it.
Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah.
I just think it's dependent on the thing. I think the fact that it's Millwall, and I think the fact that you've got the Harry Kane stuff, it's like anything. If it was a bigger fan base that was maybe would have been more shocking or would have had a wider impact. I don't know. I think so much is predicated on the thirst for what's gonna sell people. I don't think that sells. I just think that maybe it's just that Millwall fans doing something shocking at a game of football and appalling is. I don't know whether you know what I mean. I don't know whether people even consider that fucking newsworthy anymore. I just think that it's become such a cliche almost that.
But it does need highlighting.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not saying it doesn't, but yeah, you're right. It's defo. Yeah, it is a shame because we should be naming and shaming all these people again, like the Chelsea fans on the train over in Paris or whatever. We should be finding out who these people are, and they should be being held up. They should have the faces on the back page and go, "These are the idiots responsible for this." You know.
Well, that's true. We should all doing that. But when we were deciding what we were going to talk about on Social Club yesterday, racism didn't make the cut.
I didn't know about it.
I'm not saying it's not my fault. I'm just saying all of us are in this industry where we have to attract and talk about stories that are relevant to the audience. It's just.
Are you suggesting talking about the relegation fight 2 months before it's going to happen was not more?
I'm saying in any industry, you have to make a sensible decision, and a sensible decision isn't always the most.
But stuff like this though is on individual fans, and fan groups to draw attention to this. I think because if the mainstream aren't covering it, and it's because like this is, I had to ask you. This hadn't been brought to my attention. I had no concept of this as a thing. Spurs fans are the ones who've seen it. Spurs fans should be the guys going, or Millwall fans should be the ones going. People need to come and take it. People need to come and have a look.
Maybe that's why we should discuss these things more.
Yeah.
Because it does need highlighting, and people can need educating.
Yeah, definitely. Thoughts as always in the comments below. Last question comes via Craig N22. Could we see an Arsenal versus Tottenham Cup final in Wenger's last game? Oh my God, it would be so delicious.
It's happening.
Yeah, it would be.
It's happening.
We have to get through Chelsea.
It's
first,
happening.
Top of the league, you know.
It's
brush
happening.
Man United aside, and then we you know, I mean, look,
it's risk
so
reward this though for
comfortable.
you, Flav, isn't it? Because you go and beat them, penultimate game at White Hart Lane, you knock them out of the top 4 potentially, and then you get to put the nail in the coffin with the cup final.
Yeah.
So it's risk reward. Would you do it? Would you do it?
Yeah.
Well, look, I've been in this situation many times before, and generally the risk is what comes out, and I get punished with. Yeah. when does anything? We haven't finished above that in 26 years.
Yeah.
Chris. So you're asking me to forget the
Go
last.
But
all
this is
in.
the thing with this is
Yeah.
football. Football's about hope, and it's about, like I've said to Paul before.
Crushes
Flav doesn't believe in
No,
hope
but
in
this
football.
is it. Listen, because I've said to Paul before,
reality.
I'm not going to another cup final. I've seen Liverpool lose 3. I've never seen us win a cup final. And I said to him at the start of the season, if we get to a cup final, which we're not
But what
going
if
to
you
do,
miss it?
we're not going to do it. But imagine how much sweeter it's going to be for having those 3 losses behind me.
Yeah.
That's what keeps you going as a football fan. It's not the negativity, it's the fucking hope. of
James
getting
gets
there
it,
and
Chris
seeing
gets
your
it,
team
I
do
get it.
something special and saying, I was there
Yeah.
because I backed my fucking
Well, look,
boys.
I would-
You've got to go. You've got to be
I
there.
100%
You've
go.
got to go and
Of course.
support your fucking team.
Look, the realist in me says that the Chelsea game without Harry Kane
Kill him.
at Wembley would be
Kill the
difficult.
realist.
But no, look, I'm there. I'm 100% there. I got a bit pissed off with Spurs fans and their reaction on Twitter yesterday, because my reaction, certainly outwardly, was fucking, well, we done them at White Hart Lane, convincingly, and we played all right at Stamford Bridge. So if Harry Kane's back, who's to say we can't do it again at Wembley? And that's what I'm holding on to. We beat that.
Would you believe
Got the
it?
Flav.
And look, to beat Arsenal at Wembley would be the greatest day of my life. I might never watch a game of football again if that happens, because that's like, you know, it's good versus evil. You know, it's what's right with football and what's wrong with wrong with football. You know, it's a good manager and a manager past his time. The narrative writes itself.
Do you think maybe what happened last year was just so that you can enjoy this moment even more?
I think that what happened over the last 26 years has led to this point where, like I say, if we win this game, we've got to beat Chelsea first, which is a massive fucking ask because they're the bollocks. But yeah, if that happens.
Okay.
And Craig actually, just
Right
for the record,
now,
no one
I
knows
need-
Craig, but he's been a bit of an arsehole over the last, since they got on top of the league.
I've got a question for you. You get to the cup final. I can say you're going to beat Chelsea, but you play Arsenal in the final. Right here, right now, do you take that?
What, if we beat Chelsea and we get Arsenal? Yeah, all day.
So you
All day,
won Arsenal in the final.
Yeah, all right, yeah.
Good on you, Flav.
Yeah, I do. I want that experience because Man City and Tottenham final is, you know, it's special because you're in an FA Cup final, but Arsenal and Tottenham in the final, and them having to fucking walk the gauntlet of Wembley Way, it's almost worth
And if
doing
you
just
beat
for
them,
that.
balls on the table, you're going on Arsenal Fan TV.
What do you mean?
If you beat them, are you going on Arsenal Fan TV after
What,
the game?
afterwards, no.
Why?
I would never be able to live it down. Sorry.
If you beat them.
If you
Well, we're
beat
gonna
them-
listen. We're gonna have the film crew following him anyway if they get to the final.
Fuck off, you're not
aren't we?
following me on
Did
Craig's
I
gonna
ever tell
be
you the
following.
story about my brother when we got filmed for Kick, a documentary, and they followed... Have I told you this story? So they followed me and my brother. My brother's an Everton fan and to the derby last season. And they did like 2 days filming with us beforehand and stuff like that. And they followed him, and he was in the away end at Anfield, and I was in the Cop at Anfield, and we had a guy with a camera with each of us filming our stuff. And they come out and we did a little poster. We beat them 4-0. 4-0. Right? And they go to me brother, how do you feel? And he's like, well, it's basically the worst day of my life. And it's all been documented on film. How do you think I fucking feel?
Yeah.
Right? That could be you, Flav.
Yeah. I think it's the only way I can
But
put
I'd
myself
happily give
into
Robbie stick, to
Yeah.
be fair. If we beat them, I couldn't not go and give Robbie
it.
stick.
The closest we've had in recent memory to that was when we got to we was in the Champions League semi-final, and if we beat Chelsea, we'd have got Man United in the final. I remember thinking that they'll never allow English clubs back in Europe ever again if we get Man United in the final of a European competition. That'll be it. They may as well just wind up footy because there'd be just too much there, and I will watch with so much interest.
I so want it to be
I want it for you. I like you and I like Robbie, but I want it for you.
I'd support Tottenham in this as well. I think they need to get the monkey off the back.
No one likes Arsenal. No one likes Arsenal.
No, I remember 89.
No one likes Tottenham, but
I remember 1989. I could never have love for Arsenal Football Club. Anyway,
and we've never damaged you ever.
So. No. So yeah, let us know your thoughts on anything we've discussed. As always, you can send your question in for Ask the Club to be featured on the show by tweeting @BallStreet. If you haven't already, subscribe to the Ball Street channel. There's incredible things happening every single week. We've got Talking Balls with Flav and James. Occasionally doing stuff as well. Loads more amazing James content on the way. If you want more James content, give this video a thumbs up, and we'll see you back on Friday for more Social Club.